Welcome to the Livzenastrology podcast. My name is Ella Ivy, and I'm on day 7 of this cosmic exploration of cosmic energies. And today I am blessed and gifted with a beautiful couple who has come to visit me from Florida, and they are part of my cosmic community. We have been together traversing the plains since really for Katriel, 2018, and Jayna, I just met you, but I feel like I've known you forever. And so you can see here in the backstage here, we've got a movie theater stage because we're getting ready to speak on astrology. And so before we get into the deep dive of this cosmic conversation and cosmic connections with cosmic community, it's a lot of cosmos there. I want to introduce you to these beautiful sacred travelers, this divine coupleship. Again, this divine partnership. Again, we're in Jesus season. Thank you, Jesus, coming in. We're in Gemini season. We're in Gemini season, and we're here to talk, right? We're here to share our energy. And these two divine, beautiful souls are each unique in their perspective and their offerings. And as a divine couple, they are also co-partnering some beautiful creations. So let me introduce, first of all, Katriel DeWitt. He's the founder of Energy Speaks and co-creator of The Sacred Traveler with his fiancee, Jayna, right next to it. We're on that way. Weaving together astrology, sacred waters, and ancient wisdom to guide people on their journey of self-discovery and soul empowerment. Thank you so much, Katriel, for being here.
Thank you.
And he's brought his beautiful beloved Jayna to also participate in this cosmic conversation, as she's also deep diving into astrology. She actually took an astrology class. They both have taken astrology with me, which is kind of funny. And now Katriel is teaching astrology. So it's just funny how we're all connected. And Jayna, she's a beautiful soul who is a Reiki master, energy alchemist, and sacred songstress, whose heart-centered healing work and magical creations through sacred song apothecary helps others reconnect with earth, spirit, and their divine essence. So these beautiful beings, these beautiful co-collaborators of reality, of experience, are here visiting me in Kentucky. And every time we get together, there's always just magic. There's always just divine connection and synchronicity that just seems to flow with all three of us. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to screen share the astrology behind as we're speaking on the astrology, because this is what we're here. This is kind of a co-collaborative experiences that we all wanted to share and to really talk about. So before we kind of get into the astrology of what's happening today, I'd like to go into each of your stories about, first of all, we'll start with Katriel and then we'll go with Jayna. How astrology came into your life, because this is an astrology channel, and what you're doing with astrology now and how astrology has impacted you, not only with you as beings, like your own personal discovery of self, but how that's influenced you in your creations and how each of you are serving the community. So if you want to share, we'll start with Katriel. How did you get into astrology and how has it been impacting you and what are you doing with it now?
Okay, that's a large one. So I've always just been absolutely, I don't know, really connected with the stars, and we would always, talk about, oh, I'm a Scorpio, my granny was a Leo, all these kind of things. And I don't know, it was probably 2016 when I was like, okay, I have to know more. This is something that's part of me and I just need to go deep. And so I actually walked into Enchanted Spirits, and there was this girl in there who worked named Danielle. And we started having a conversation. I said, I really like to know more about astrology, but I always get really confused because there's so much going on. And I just need somebody to simplify it. And she suggested to look up Christopher Witecki. And I was like, all right. So he explained it in a way that I've never heard astrology in my life. And that actually leads into what I am doing with it. I don't know. It was I feel like, okay, so his sun sign's Taurus and I'm Scorpio sun. It felt like this, coming together because they're opposites essentially. But at the same time, they're complementary. And so this kind of just like birthed something in me to be able to go deeper. And then along that path, as I got connected with, at the time, Solterra, I met this beautiful being in front of us, Ella.
There's two beautiful beings in front of you. So
Yes,
you pick this one.
there are. Gemini season? No.
Yes.
And so, that because like as I went along, I learned a lot from Chris Witecki, from Serious Joy. And then I took a little bit of a pause to look at other aspects of the metaphysical world, primarily Orosoma. And then I ended up at Solterra, and I met Ella, and like she was doing astrology classes. And I remember being in your class at the bar top where I teach now, which is kind of wild. I remember having so many like questions in my mind that it was like all these deep questions. And I and it was so funny because she's in some way I felt like you were expecting like a 101 kind of question. And then like I'm trying to ask like because I never go in order. For some reason, I never go in order. I always go for the most complicated questions. And you're like, but no, no, no. And so we had to kind of like merge our energies at a certain point because we were like trying to have a conversation. And then I was like, and I just saw this merging kind of happening. And I will tell you, based off of taking your class, it really opened up a lot of doors because one of the things that is one of the primary things I teach on today is how important your earth sign is. I didn't even know there was an earth sign until I took a class. I had no idea. And now it's part of, a core part of my teachings. And so I thank you for that.
Oh, you're
Like,
welcome. And anybody that wants to find their earth, it's always going to be opposite the sun.
Mhm.
So just know that too when you're looking and like, well, how do I find my earth? And there's a symbol for earth. I don't have it on here. I can put that on there, but it will always be opposite your sun and the opposite sign at the same degree. So when you want to find your earth, then that's what Catriel's talking about. And as we're exploring opposition energy, it's never really opposing forces. It's just opportunities for the, like you say, Catriel, the polarizing energies to merge together. That we may have different peripheries of how we think and talk about astrology and cosmology, but there is always an underlining what I call the golden thread of truth, that we're exploring through words, Gemini season, through ideas, through connection points, right?
yeah.
And so, and by the way, Solterra is now our three miracles, where Katriel currently teaches, him and his beloved Jayna. They both are teachers and way showers and healers at this center in Palm Harbor. So if you're in the Florida area and you want to check them out, they're both there with their services. And Jayna, I want to talk a little bit too about your offerings, and we'll come back to Catriel because I don't want to overwhelm you with all that question. I want to, Gemini season is like, let's talk, right?
Right, yeah.
You see right now, Mercury just went into Gemini, so we have a lot to talk about. It's like an excitable energy, right? There's a lot that wants to be shared, but we had to go, actually before this transmission, we had to go ground outside, take our shoes off.
We have a tendency to fly high, the three of us, when we're together. And then we each found our wings outside. So today,
We found our wings. That's right. So she's talking about, guys, is we went outside in nature and grounded and was just connecting to the nature spirits. Jayna found a rose bush, again, another magical rose bush that just happened to appear right outside that I didn't even see. And it was up in the trees. It was ascended, right? And then down on the ground, we found these beautiful cicada wings that have like these iridescent colors. And we found 3 sets of them, right? And so there's 3 here. We also were like pulling cards before. We were getting codes about what wanted to be transmitted today, because this connection is very organic. This channel comes from all is self, that we come from a conscious community of oneness, really, that we are here to unify the field for all of humanity with our own unique gifts and periphery. And so I want to talk to Jayna and her unique gifts and periphery, and then we'll come back to you, Katriel, about how astrology is showing up and what you intend to do, and then your co-creative experience together of what you're creating based on the astrology, right? Because you're actually following the astrology as you are coupling together and merging your frequencies in this divine holy union. So Jayna, let's talk about a little bit, first of all, what are your offerings, and then how astrology has influenced and impacted you.
Yeah, so I am very much into herbs. I'm a self-taught herbalist and continually learning because the earth has so much to teach us, and we will always be learning from Mama Gaia. Um, so right now I teach an apothecary course at R3 Miracles. And then I do some plant magic workshops and intensives here and there. There's not any scheduled at R3 right now, but I do have, a plant magic intensive scheduled at Enchanted Spirits in Dunedin. And so, my focus is really on allowing us, we have the ability to heal ourselves. Um, and that comes from the energetic perspective, and it also comes from, just the body perspective, the physical perspective as well, but they all merge together, and the plants and herbs have so much to teach us and so much to offer us. We can heal our bodies, we can heal our spirit with these different things. And so that's what I love to focus on right now. And so I do that. I also do a lot of energy work, and I incorporate Reiki and sound and do different energy sessions, as well as it's a higher self therapy. It's a hypnosis and regression technique to really help you guide yourself. I'm just the facilitator. I'm just a guide in that helping you to, and Katriel does these sessions as well, but it allows your higher self to guide you and what you need to know in those different moments. And so we have just general scripts that we go through, or we can tailor some to you as well, which is really powerful and what you need to know. But my astrology can I move into the astrology?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I've always been a psych nerd, right? I have always been into psychology and personality testing and all that. I was like a psych major in college. And I knew a little bit, like I knew I was an Aquarius, I knew a little bit here and there about astrology, but when I moved to Florida a few years ago, I really allowed myself to explore things that I had never explored before. There'd always been that interest, like that there's something there that I want to go deeper into. And so I started exploring that a little bit more. I got some apps here and there. But then Katriel did the Zodiac Energy Empowerment series. That's actually how we met. But then I also, through him, met you. And so I had the opportunity to take an astrology class with you. And it was just me and you. So it was a one-on-one it was supposed to be a 12-week, and we were able to condense, because it was just one-on-one, we condensed it down to 6. Because it felt very much like a soul remembering. But we really started digging deep into my chart, which was really powerful for me. Really feel like I learned so much in those moments. And I remember specifically, I keep thinking back because you told me like one of the last couple sessions, like this time of year that we're in right now, because of all of the Aries energy, and I'm an Aquarius sun and moon, but I have so much Aries in my chart. I'm fire and air in my natal chart. But you talked about how powerful this time of year was going to be for me. And it has been. There's been a lot of triggering moments, a lot of healing that needs to happen in order for me to step forward and fully into things. And so I'm not as seasoned as these two in astrology, but I'm picking it up, and I very much use astrology in my everyday life. And thankful for these guides. 100%.
And it's interesting because I feel like the planetary energies are very much our guides.
Mm-hmm.
The planets, excuse me, who come from plants, which is probably why you're drawn to plant medicine. And even as you're talking, Jane, I'm realizing too, as you're speaking, you have a lot of fire and air. Of course, you're being drawn to the earth elements and water to ground, to balance it out, right?
Yeah.
So again, as above, so below, when we look at the astrology, there are correspondences to even like when we study Ayurveda, right? Earth, air, fire, and water, there's elementals that are playing out in their charts that are constantly in balance and balancing themselves. And so when you're in awareness of these things, when you're looking at your own chart to see if you're more, air dominant, water dominant, fire dominant, these are things that that can be looked at in the chart, right? If you know what to look for. And so I've been really honored, and astrology is a language, and to be able to have a community where you can speak the language with others,
Yes.
get it, it takes you to another realm almost. I'm thinking of it too, like, and this is for any community group out there who specializes in something. So, for example, if you're a physician, right, doctors will speak doctor talk, and they really only know what they're saying to each other, right? And so, this is very much where we're moving to as far as communities, is we're learning to bridge the gap with our language. That astrology is a very specialized language, but we're here to bridge the gap by sharing how does it impact our everyday lives in real time, right? Making it relatable, making it transcribable. Now, if you want to get into the technicalities, go to an astrology conference, and then you can talk to all the astrology doctors and do astrology talk all day long, right? You know what you're talking about. But this, I wanted to really bring it down and land it to see, and maybe we can go into each of you, because I want to look at the transits today. You guys arrived here yesterday on the new moon, which was amazing. And let's go ahead and talk about our top three. So when astrologers, when you're looking at your chart and you're first starting out exploring your chart, that's really what you really want to focus on, because there's a lot to the birth chart. There's a lot to study, and that you took the class, Jayna. There's a lot of memorization. But if you can just really focus in on the top three, your earth, Katriel, you're coming in, your sun, moon, and ascendant, right? So let's everybody share your sun, moon, and ascendant, and let's talk about how that is showing up in the birth chart, and maybe how some of the energies that are playing out in your life right now, based on what you know just about your top three. So Katriel, what are your top three, sun, moon, and ascendant? And how are you seeing the energies playing out in your own chart right now in relation to what you're experiencing real time, right? The relatability for people that may have those same configurations.
Okay, so Scorpio sun, Cancer moon, and Sagittarius rising. So we just went through Taurus season, which again, that's my earth. And so that means the earth would have been in Scorpio. And that means we had a full moon in Scorpio. So that was very powerful. That's when, I learned this from Ella, like that's when your seed drops. That's when you can essentially even recode yourself, and during that time, it's very potent. It's very intense energy, but it's also paying attention to what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, because for me, this is with anyone. If we look at a 6 months from what we're trying to manifest, what we're putting out there into the universe to like birth, a 6-month cycle is really, really important. An entire year cycle is really important as well. But that checkpoint is at that 6 months. And so, especially being around that time that I know is going to be around my birthday, I've been really paying attention. And I know, essentially we're getting married in October. So that's like, by the time my birthday comes, we will be married. And so it's just like, there's a lot that happens alchemically, especially with, two beings merging together. And so
Wait, I have a question, interjection really quick. Did you guys use astrology to pick your union time, your marriage time?
That's
I'm curious.
We used dice. We rolled dice. But then we rolled dice and then we looked at the astrology for it and we're like, what the hell? Like it was crazy.
We're getting married in Libra season.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, and like from the Jewish perspective, it's in the month of Tishrei, which Rosh Hashanah is like the first of the year for us, which is essentially we have 4 New Years in Judaism, okay?
You all know how to party.
we do. And this one is the birthday of humans. So actually, Ella, we're getting married. Our parsha for that week is your birth parsha.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Fun facts.
I have no idea what that means, but that sounds intriguing and I can't wait to learn more. Wow. See, I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's so much. I love astrology because it takes us down so many beautiful rabbit holes of awareness and it cross culturally. Really, it's so universal, in so many ways. It really just cuts across religion and in other ways. It's a beautiful, like, I want to call it pseudoscience, but, understanding the astronomy, it gives you direction. You understand where you are in relation. It's like, you know where your true north is when you understand your configurations, right? And so for me, having some awareness about, again, your top 3, sun, moon, and rising, also gives you some directions on how you handle these currents of energy, right? And so, of course, he's Sag rising. Sag likes to gamble. They're fun. They're really, of course, it's going to throw the die. And it's always going to land perfectly, right? Because Sag is ruled by Jupiter, which is our benefactor. It's our protective planet. So you can't really get it wrong when you're
So to piggyback on that, so as we know, we just moved into Gemini season, which means that the Earth is in Sagittarius. So it was so funny because when we landed in Michigan, there's a specific casino I love to go to. We landed in Michigan and I was like, we're not supposed to go there yet. Of course, we do our trip to LA, we come back and everything. It's now Gemini season, so that means Sagittarius Earth. And of course, I'm guided on Jupiter Day, Thursday, to go and to the casino. And so it was quite funny and it was very prosperous, like, I mean, I didn't win $1 billion, but it definitely helped. I expanded my pocketbook, but and I feel like sometimes I feel things. Okay, so the feeling part, all right, I can feel
Cancer moon.
Exactly.
For those of you that are like, feeling, what is feeling? Feeling's water signs, right? So he's double feeler for him.
So the double feeler, so it's like, the Cancer energy is the pure like empath, right? It is like immediately going to feel in the field. But then the Scorpio can feel it with detail, every layer. And so it's quite interesting because sometimes when I feel through different transits, sometimes I feel through the Earth rather than the sun. Like I go through these cycles, but I was feeling when we were traveling last Tuesday, I was like, this is really interesting. I'm feeling a lot of Sag energy. Lo and behold, I wanted to ask because like sometimes I let go of like what's going on when I'm like traveling and stuff. Like, all right, what's going on specifically in the planetaries? And then I'll look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, spot on.
No.
Like, and I'm like, yo, like I felt this expansion energy and traveling and there's no fear in it either. Like, it's like, like I'll be like, let's go to, Minnesota. Let's call my friend's parents and see if we can stay there. And it's just like everything's taken care of for you because like Jupiter is like, the kid that nothing bad can happen to. That's what it feels like. You know what I mean? And to be able to be in that optimistic mode when you need it, it's it's like a card you can play, and it's very nice. And here's the thing, it's like we're all of these different, you know, zodiac energies in different amounts, but we're learning what each one of them feels like, and when we need to play that card, you know.
I
That's what I love about astrology, is it's like it teaches you so much and how to be a better human, how you can interact with people at a deeper level, at a more conscious level. And yeah, so I gave you a little bit more than what you asked for, but
Well, that Sagittarius is always going to overgive. I love that. And I'll take it, because this is what the cosmic conversation is about today. And we're here really to talk about the language of astrology, because again, it's such a beautiful neutral language, and it's helped so many people. And if you really use the tool in the way I feel like our ancestors gave it, was in a way to help know thyself, so you can have a better experience of this reality. Learn, like the planting seasons. Hey, on full moons, pay attention. Certain plants grow. You're like plants with emotions, so you're growing. Things are happening. The moon's controlling the tides, and you're mostly made up of water. So see the correspondence, right? It's like a remembrance. They're letting us know when the tides change or things happen. It's like a form of sanity. They're like, okay, I'm not being tossed about. There's actually a method to this. There's actually a system that we're a part of. But when you don't know it, you feel like you're in chaos, right? So it helps you calm the chaos of what you're perceiving. Is there's no rhyme or reason to it. With in astrology, it shows you the rhyme, the reason, the longitude, the latitude, the numerology, the symbology about it, the logistics, really, from my discovery.
Yeah.
And so Jayna, I want to go to you. What are your top three, and how's astrology been showing up for you based on your sun, moon, and rising?
All right. Well, so I'm a double Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius sun and moon, and an Aries rising. So I've got a lot of air and fueled by that fire right there. Aries in my first house. Um, so the big thing right now, it is the age of Aquarius. Pluto has transitioned into Aquarius. It's about depth and transformation, I feel. And so I have really been feeling that, and I think I will continue to feel that. Aquarius energy it's about the hive mind, it's about community, it's about the collective consciousness. It's about social justice and, like, being community. It's about cosmic community, what we're doing on this podcast right now. And so there the last couple of years, I feel like I was very much in hermit mode in a lot of ways. And so, especially with the transitions of Pluto into Aquarius, I feel like that is coming more. I'm coming out of that hermit mode. I have been. And I get to play more in the community aspect and the community realm, and that because that's where we transform, is among our community. I know that, like, there are days where, yeah, okay, I think that I just want to sit at home and we all need that time by ourselves and that kind of thing. But there's moments where I was like, I really don't want to go do something, but once I go do that thing with these people that I love, my heart opens up and I'm in such a better space. And we're in that time right now. So spend time with that community that you have. But then, going into the Aries, you can see the chart right now. There is so much Aries power happening. And so there's a lot of fires being lit within so much. Um, and so for me, I think that is just fueling the transformation even further. I think the Saturn into Aries is going to be, while we're just, a few days into it, I really feel like this point in time is going to be a huge restructuring for myself. Because sometimes I struggle with creating that routine or allowing things to really teach me. Aquarius, I rebel against a lot, right? I rebel against that disciplined nature. And so that is what I feel like Saturn and Aries is really going to teach me a whole lot going forward. So like it's not going to be easy. I know it's going to be it may be a challenge in a lot of ways, but I'm looking forward to it because I know like I am growing so much through this season.
And with all this Aries in your chart, Aries loves a challenge. They're the
Yes,
warriors,
absolutely.
right? They're Mars rule. Like, give it to me.
Right.
It's too easy, God, and I don't want it.
But it's
Right?
also about play too. And that's something I'm really have been missing and needing more is that inner child, that playfulness. And so that's um Aries is about taking inspired action as well. And it's listening to that inner child energy. And so that is where I really feel myself growing, you know?
I know we talked about this earlier. We were calling it, a Saturn structured play. Making sure you
Yeah.
set up time for yourself to play in the energy that wants to come through you
Yeah.
organically. And give yourself time for that. Time, Saturn.
Yeah.
And so, and this is also this is a download that I received in my own meditative practices with Saturn going into Aries is like, wow, people are going to really start honoring their individuated time, right? So
Mhm.
in Pisces, it was about service to others, right? Which is great. Service to others, service to self. But we're starting to realize in these frequencies that, wow, the more you do take care of yourself, the more you actually have to give to others. So we're
Mhm.
leaving this sort of Piscean sacrificial energy, right? And we're moving into more of like, if the most valuable resource on this planet is time, which is emit spell backwards, right? Frequency. Once you spend your time, you never get it back. Money you can get back, right? That's
Yeah.
what we can talk about currency, right? So with Saturn and Aries, I'm even seeing too that our time, Aries, is going to be valuable and how we spend our time, our current. And so why not do it in things that we love with pleasurable pursuits, with our passions, things that ignite us. This is
Mhm.
very much Aries, which rules, our primal energy force, it's ruled by Mars. And Mars right now is in Leo, the heart of the child, fifth house, fun, creativity, right? So, and there's this trine happening right now that was just like, look, there are benefits and there are, I'm hearing too, like, there's abundance if you give yourself that play energy. And there's
Mhm.
money, Venus values on the other side of you being able to play. Because I also, you can see right here, guys, it's conjunct Chiron. We've all been wounded, right? I
Mhm.
think of too, like our ancestors that didn't have a chance to play. I think think about our great great grandparents who lived in the time of the Depression, who had to go to work because it was in survival mode, right? Where we were in
Mhm.
consciousness. So the wounds of the inner child, maybe you didn't get to play for those of us who had to grow up really early in life,
Mhm.
right? Saturn, responsibility. We're given a lot of responsibilities early. And so this is an invitation for those also that have been burdened by feeling over responsible or have taken on those burdens ourselves because that's where we find our worth, our value, right? To feel worthy, I've got to always overdo, overwork, and then don't give yourself time for play. And I'm seeing too with the South Node is like, and you said this perfectly too. And I was thinking of astrology when you're talking about herbs and working with medicines and the plants, because that South Node, you got to take care of your body.
Mhm.
Your true wealth is your health. And so as we're all learning to be in our bodies and to really stabilize, we can have more freedom and more free flow and have that energetic, like being like the heart of the child. But if you don't feel good, you can't be playful.
Yeah.
You're like in recovery mode. So I feel like a lot of us have been recovering from this whole cycle of Saturn and in the 29-year ingress and going through the 29-year cycle. And now it's completing a cycle and it's beginning new cycles. So I think of like the Ouroboros, the snake eating itself, right? There's always completions and beginnings, completions and beginnings. That's what this wheel teaches us, right? The wheel, the will to do better, to be better. And so to learn from these experiences, and this is part of Gnosis and why astrology I feel will continue to be around, but will also be upgraded in how we speak about it, how the definitions. I think, Katriel, you're really good, especially with, setting systems like architects like Chris Witecki, who takes the astrology and does it in his own way. And so, I've been saying this to you, and I hope it's okay because you have a unique perspective, and especially when studying the Cabal and astrology,
Kabbalah.
the Kabbalah, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you study the Kabbalah and astrology, that's a whole unique perspective too. So do you want to go a little bit into, because I know as you're expanding and teaching into R3 miracles and going through different sects of spirituality, I know that one's close to your heart because you are Jewish and are very sacred, just with your practices. I've been witness to you just holding that sacredness within yourself. And so do you want to speak on perhaps how you're integrating your spiritual practices and your community and bringing astrology into that and merging that together?
Yeah. So Kabbalah is very unique because in order to like really grasp like all the layers, it really helps to be a practicing Jew, essentially. It's not the only way you can connect, but it allows for a deeper understanding and a clearer view. And so as I'm just doing like my practice in the morning, you know, I so we have this prayer called Anab Clock. And I knew I brought this in here for a reason. So Anab Clock is a particular prayer that is based on a 42 letter name of God. It's not how you would think in regards to normal, but it's like different dimensions of Hashem. And its specific purpose is to, okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of like Joshua and Jericho. So there is this there's this point, Joshua was the successor to Moses in regards to entering into Israel, promised land, right? And they get to Jericho, and Hashem says, you need to march around the city 7 times. So every single day, it was 7 days, so they had to do once around it every single day, and then on the 7th day they had to march around 7 times. So that energy was to break down any barriers, any obstacles in our way. Think about like Ganesh, right? And so this particular prayer, we sing this every single day when counting the Omer. I don't know if it'll show up, but sometimes these things work, sometimes they don't. Well, there we go, kind of. So this book is all about counting the Omer, and this is a 50-day period where we sing that song, we count each day. It originally represented a time of like having the harvest, a barley harvest. And then, or no, sorry, wheat. I get them mixed up. But so you have that like calendar thing, right? And it's connected with the full moon. But they took the Kabbalists took it and said, the Torah was revealed at this time. How can we cleanse out ourselves consciously through the lens of the tree of life, the Sephirot, which is our model of what we use in Kabbalistic astrology, and clean out every little aspect of our vessel? And so it's like really deep. Now, bringing in a little bit of Kabbalistic astrology here, I teach one Kabbalah, and then I also teach Kabbalistic astrology, which allows you to like see a chart in a brand new lens. Now, what is the purpose of Kabbalistic astrology? Now, what we believe is that when we were born, our soul specifically chose exactly that time, that space, to fulfill our mission on this planet, to be born and to walk through life. Now, there's other types of astrologies that share that a little bit, especially with evolutionary astrology working with Pluto. But it's really, if I had to pick anything, it would be Earth, like, looking at our Earth sign, and also looking at our North and South nodes. Those are a huge piece to Kabbalistic astrology because we have a soul mission on this planet, and we're here to build ourselves up with light and share that light. And how do we best connect with that light? And that light, these are all, when we look at the zodiac and what it represents, they're all connected to the grand creator, Hashem. And so we look through different lenses on how all of that comes together through our chart. And so, yeah, you can look at a birth chart like this, but what we do is we also put it on a tree of life. And that takes you to a whole new level. I've done one of these sessions with Ella, and she's like, "Whoa!" Do you want to talk about your experience? I know it's been a while, but what was your experience with seeing it through a new lens, especially as an astrologer?
Well, honestly, the reading was so long ago, I don't really remember the intricacies of it.
I understand.
But I do remember that the way you told the story of it, because it was hard to follow, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I'm not Jewish. And so, but I enjoy your storytelling of it, and I enjoy your passion with it. And so what I was able to glean, because it had to do with something with Noah's Ark, I think, and my day, my birthday. But you were giving me imagery that I could really sit with and ponder and think about. And the image of Noah's Ark is something that really sat with me. And so that image comes to me, right, when I look at art, when we talk about archangels, I think about archangels or arced aspects.
Yeah.
Because in my periphery, I see all as self. And so when we're looking at astrology, no matter from which lens, it's all just a part of you talking to you about you. And so the thing that was coming up there when you were talking, that for those of you who've seen that movie, what's it called? It's not Guardians of the Galaxy. It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
42.
42.
42. And then I was thinking about the 42 dimensions, right? So I'm like, oh, there's a correspondence there with the meaning of life in 42 and what you just spoke about. So I love finding those golden threads that we're telling ourselves these stories from different peripheries, but it's really all the same story of self. And no matter which lens you look at this from, it's just like an exciting and fun periphery, because it gives it structure, it gives it organization, it gives you understanding, and it takes you at a judgment of what you're perceiving, because you're looking at it at a specific lens and going, oh, it's like discovering the color purple and just like, oh, this is the color purple and this is how it looks and this is how it operates and this is its frequency, right? Then judging like, oh, color purple's bad. Well, no, it's not. Color purple is just operating a certain way, right? And so this is also the exploration of astrology, is helping us to remove judgment from one another. When our vibrations, our frequencies, our cymatics are just coming out in a specific way, hey, don't take it personally. This is just the energy that wants to show itself and present itself. So if you can learn to love yourself first in your own inner picadillos, your own quirks, your own unique expressions, then when others are expressing their own periphery and their own beliefs and their own understanding of the cosmos, you don't have to have judgment. If anything, it's just a really cool other story of self telling self about self, right? If you're really practicing that radical oneness. And so I really want to talk about too, guys, because you guys are about to launch. This is a launch pad again. We're still in this new moon frequency with Gemini. I know Katriel and Jayna, you have Mars in Gemini, so you take action on things that interest you, right? And basically kind of looking at your chart, Jayna, with 0 degree points. So you're on the ascendant cusp of Aries. And so you can see right now, guys, while Pluto's retrograde, and you just pulled out the Pluto book before this transmission that said at 3 degrees. You see that? And it's exact trining degrees today, right?
Wow.
So yeah, there's Mercury, 3 degrees in Gemini, exactly trining Pluto, 3 degrees in Aquarius, and it's retrograde. And so before Katriel pulled out a Pluto book and it said 3 parts, right? That's why actually I was just gonna originally have a conversation with Katriel, and then it came intuitive, like, no, we need to put Jayna on here, right? Because again, we're expanding community. and having different peripheries and different expressions of how we all practice and work with astrology. And it does not have to be Western astrology, guys. There's Vedic astrology, like you had mentioned before, evolutionary astrology. There's shamanistic astrology. There's Native American astrology.
Mhm.
There's Chinese astrology. You know, there's all different facets and ways to look at our cosmology, and none of it's wrong, right? We got to quit the comparative model of like, you know, because I study primarily Western astrology, right? And so I've heard people say, well, that's not right because everything's off, and that may be, but there's also a story that's being told from that perspective of wherever you're at. And it's not right or wrong or good or bad, it's just a story. And it's giving you guidance.
Mhm.
Can I share a perspective on that too?
Sure.
With the different types of astrology, and I could even use an example because I'm more familiar with like the calendars and stuff, but like think about Western astrology, Vedic astrology, and Kabbalistic astrology that would play off the Hebrew calendar. Okay. Now, what's interesting is one's a solar calendar, all right?
Which one's the solar?
Well, Western astrology would play more off solar, you
Okay.
know. And then you have a fusion of the two, which would be the Hebrew calendar, and then the moon calendar would be more Vedic, right? I'm not saying that the sun or the moon is not present. It's just it's the way things travel, right? And so what's interesting is I actually love looking at all of them because what it tells me is that there's a continuum. And the more I learn about the different astrologies and if there's different types of calendars, it's like, okay, so from a sun perspective, in the Vedic, I'm a Libra. I could look at the specific degree points if I wanted to. And then in Western astrology, I am a Scorpio. And so then I see like a fusion kind of energy happen because it does use Western type of energy within the Kabbalistic chart. And it still brings me a very unique perspective. And so I look across there and I said, wow, okay, because like energy it moves, right? You don't go from like, let's say here, Taurus to Gemini and it like bam.
Right.
No, it
Flows into it.
it progressively moves. So the more you get closer to the like, for instance, the 15 degrees of Gemini, you're at the heart of Gemini. That's why we have decades, right? And so it's just really interesting to see where my energy from different perspectives, different cultures radiate. And then we have our progress charts, which is another layer on top. We're always walking through energies. So it's like, it's so beautiful. It's like a freaking rainbow. And so when people like get out of their own ego, like, it's like, wow, you have so much to play with. You have so much to learn about yourself, and I would love to learn more about Vedic. It's just, it hasn't happened yet, like I know a little bit, but, it's just so unique. So there's my
I would say too that anybody that gets bored with things, start studying astrology. You'll never be bored ever. You have
never.
attention deficit and you get bored. You're like, I gotta switch to. You'll always go back to astrology. Believe me, I tried to quit astrology many a times, but then I get bored. I'm like, I gotta come back because there's so much to learn about. You'll hear about something and how it's connected to astrology somehow, the cosmology, and you're like, shit, I gotta go back to it. This is so great, right? So if you do have attention deficit with learning and you want to keep learning about new stuff, study astrology. You'll never get bored, ever.
We have in schools, like legit.
And okay, so I want to ask both of you now. So you getting ready to co-couple, right? Divine partner, divine union. And so how are you using the astrology for your next co-creative collaborative experience with your sacred travelers, the sacred travelers, excuse me, spelled English way. I thought I was misspelling it, and Katriel was like, no, spell it the English way. I was like, all right. So the sacred travelers is spelled the travelers with 2 L's on purpose, guys. My Virgo South Node needs to. I know that wasn't a mistake.
I know it drives me nuts too, but he's insistent.
Getting
bricks
over
won.
I understand why he's doing it based on what we're trying to create. So
But it still triggers that perfection Virgo, right?
it
It's like,
does.
it's not. Oh,
Tomato, tomato, potato, potato.
let's call the whole thing off. Da-da-da. All right. All right, we're getting down the rabbit hole. Here's what we
We
do.
did.
We get together. It's like the fairies. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about the astrology and in your next co-collaborative experience. And Jayna, I want you to talk about, why this is important, what the visions you have about Glastonbury. Katriel, I want you to bring it in about water and what you're doing with these magical elements as we're here to co-create the next experience of humanity. Right now, again, we got this trine, Pluto, go big or go home. So let's talk about what communities we're building right now.
Okay.
Jayna,
He
you.
tried to mouth something at me. I'm not sure. I didn't quite catch it. I can't read
There's a
like
chat. You guys can chat to each other.
that's true.
Oh, well, I'll just say one word: astrocartography.
Okay.
Oh, right. So that's fun.
That's fun.
We have looked at so for me, so we have this dream of moving to the UK and opening a shop there called the Sacred Traveler. He has been a sacred traveler for a long time. I have had this soul longing to be a sacred traveler for a long time. I've never been to the UK yet. I have not been yet, but there has literally like down from when the time I was probably a teenager or before, like there has been this longing, like my soul knows that I belong in the UK or in Europe somewhere, like I have that soul longing, um, because I know that there are growth codes for me. Um, and so we looked at yeah, we ended up looking at the astrocartography, and for me, thank you, ChatGPT helps has helped with that so much. But like the number one they gave me was like, here, I'll give you a list of 5 places. And then we just did this like a few weeks ago, but it's like, I'll give you a list of 5 places, and the number one place was Glastonbury for me personally. And it's like it's this knowing like I have past lives in Avalon, like I know that there's priestess energy there. There are codes of unlocking and remembering for me there. And so we looked at the astrocartography, and I think was it my Jupiter line or my Venus line, or maybe both that were really close and within that frame. Um,
I just have to interrupt really quickly. I want you to continue your story, but I have to say, she's a songstress and she's a singer, and she definitely holds a lot of codes. And she was letting me listening to one of her recordings today, and I literally started crying. The tones that she had in her voice was otherworldly. And so when you said Avalon and the priestess, I just heard, yes, that's absolute resonance, because I've never heard that type of tone come out of a being that it just invoked in so much emotion. So I definitely want to be a testament to, I feel like that's on confirmation.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
got chills as you talk. Well, that's like that's part of me that right now, especially with this all of the Aries energy happening, um, that the priestess energy has been wanting to really open up for me and flow through for a long time. And I feel like I'm at the beginning of that path, and it feels really good. It's why all of the roses keep coming in, like we're here, we got roses everywhere. So that's why the first plant magic class that I taught was on roses and their vibration. And there's a reason behind that. It's because they're ancient medicine. But there's definitely, yeah, there's the priestess energy coming through, but the astrocartography has really been fun to look at and shape, because like um Katriel is also he's a citizen of Israel and has an apartment there, and will probably be there sometimes. And I know like my Pluto line goes really close to that, and so there's going to be a lot of transformation there for me as well. But um the
Hold on,
UK
guys.
is,
I'm doing this while you're talking. I apologize. I'm going to resume.
oh, you're good.
I'm screen sharing the astrocartography.
Oh, yes.
While you're talking
Yay.
about
Awesome.
this, hold up. I'm going to screen share
Yes,
the
let's do it.
astrocartography. For anybody that's interested in an astrocartography chart or what it looks like or what we're talking about, this is what it looks like, guys. So can you guys see it?
Not yet. It's
Have to
still
hit double click to enter full screen mode.
Double click to enter full screen mode. Oh,
it's not
oh,
showing
share.
yet. It's like it's loading.
Maybe,
Here it goes.
or maybe that's me. I don't know.
Resume. All right, sacred pause. Sacred traveler, sacred pausing. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. Well, let's just share that for everything. All right. Okay, share. Come on. You know what? I'm going to stop screen share. Let's start over, shall we?
Okay.
Sacred pause, redo. Take two. All right, here we go. Yeah, because anybody that's interested in their astrocartography chart, this is this is what she's talking about as far as being able to look at your chart and to look at the transits. Hold on, maybe this is part of it. There we go. Can you guys see that now? Hold on, let me see if it comes through. Share. All right, so it's hiding itself. It doesn't want to be seen.
Oh.
I know, it's interesting, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we're in the immersive phase. Video chat. Okay, this is live, guys, live and in person. We're gonna try one more time, see if we can screen share it. If not, we're gonna move on. But I wanted to really share, again, if anybody's ever looked at an astrocartography chart, that this is what it looks
Oh,
like.
there we go.
There we go. Yay, we can see it.
Mm-hmm.
So Jayna, when you were looking at it, right? So when she was talking about your Venus lines, right? So here we are right now, based on where we're located, and how there's, we talk about in quantum energy, whether it's a particle or a wave, and we know that these planetary energies are constantly waving certain cymatical frequencies, right? Harmonics, harmonies that will activate certain harmonics within you, right? So when we look at the astrocartography, so we're talking about that she's saying that the harmonics within her is a correspondence. There's a harmonic vibration attached to a certain piece of land, right? So we can see here, and you can even go further into it when you can go deep into it and move all around. And I want to play with this because I want everybody to see it.
Right.
And for anybody that's interested, I work with, this is solar, no, I keep saying solar flare. It's Astro Gold for MacBook. Okay. And so again, you go to your natal birth chart and you just put in the longitude, latitude, and you can change it too based on your progress relocated or wherever you're at. So this is how astrologers, when she's talking about the astrocartography, and thank you, Katriel, for bringing that in, this is what we look at, right? And so Jayna, going back to you, when you were looking at your astrocartography, seeing the ley line, there's actually Neptune there, right? There's Chiron, right? So it's where the frequency of energy you're moving through as again, like a field of energy, think of like a wave, and how these wave particle patterns are traversing in the electromagnetic field of Earth, right? And these are impacting us. We get influenced by these cymatical frequencies, these energies. That's what they call it, harmonic astrology. There's actually a sect that I'm getting into and exploring, which is the harmonic astrology, which is like music, right? Musical notes being played. And so when you want a harmonic note to be played, you want to see where your astrocartography is, because that's where the harmony of the universe is going to play its tune specifically to you in a frequency that you want to experience. Or you can be in a location that can create dissonance and disharmony, right? So because you're not properly in your proper location, you're off course, if you will. So thank you for bringing that into the conversation, and about why you just kind of intuited, right? Aquarius is very intuitive, very high mind knowing, like they know, the I know, right? That's very much Aquarius.
Knows that.
And so you knew even before you looked at the astrocartography that Glastonbury was a location for you. And then I feel like the astrology in the astrocartography is just a confirmation. Like, right, we do divination cards. You're like, oh, I knew the answer, but I just wanted to pull a card to confirm. Right?
Well, I'm looking at, is this my chart or our combined astro?
Nope, this is what the chart we were just looking at, which is just.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's another offering that both Katriel, myself, and I offer are astrocartography readings, just because that's something we're both passionate about and interested in. And as we both have Sag rising, right? So it's like we want to know the next place to travel and move to.
Right.
And,
Well, that's the
and
other thing
have
with Sacred Traveler. Like he's got a ton of Sag in his chart. I actually have a ton of Sag in my chart as well. And so it's that traveling, that higher knowledge. Like Saturn is in Sag in my chart. And so I really feel like the codes await for me as I travel, like in different ways. So it's pretty powerful, powerful stuff.
Katriel, do you want to speak on the astrocartography or how you experience it, especially in relation to your co-creative experience, which you're getting ready to create with Jayna and your Sacred Traveler, and how you're going to incorporate this with that creation?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna speak on like traveling to these different locations and what, as my Cancer moon has like felt into and gave me inner knowings, Um, because as I was, growing up, I've always known that, I was going to move to Israel, but I've always known that I was very connected to like Ireland and the UK. Those are the places that I've chosen to travel to. And I know I'll go other places, but looking at the astrocartography and seeing how they like, I have my moon and Saturn lines going directly through Israel.
What does that mean for you when you say that? So why is that significant if anybody's watching this video and saying, okay, well, Saturn and the moon is going through this particular, why is that important?
So we look at, one, what it's saying in regards to the planet and what the planet represents. Okay. Of course, even the area of what the country itself brings into. And then also what in our own chart, what is that planet and what is it in? So for instance, that moon and Saturn lines going through um Israel, I find very interesting because, well, my moon is in Cancer. It's home sign. It's home to me. But part of that, like this Cancer energy, this moon energy is familiar. It's reminiscence. It likes to be nurtured. It also likes the memories. And it can be very, very emotional, right? And if you are in tune with your emotions, and you like them, then it could be a good spot. But if you're like not, and you're like, eh, then maybe not so much. But then my my Saturn is also in Capricorn. It's home sign. So I find that odd and interesting at the same time. And it shows, like, yes, if I'm going to build a home there, it's going to be little by little. It's a bigger vision. It's not like Jupiter. It's not very quick. It's not like Mars, it's like the goat, little by little, little by little. And I find this interesting because of the fact that I've moved to Israel. I have citizenship, but because of certain things going on, I can't be there right now.
Well, it's interesting. I have to interrupt you real quick because when you were saying you have
Mhm.
the opposition, you have Capricorn Saturn in its own right. That's
Yeah,
actually opposite Cancer,
yes, it
right? So
is.
you got the moon and Saturn in opposition energy, and we know Saturn structure, long-term structure, 29-year cycles, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we get to work, right? That's where we take, that's where you really feel like there's a lot of work to do in Israel, and you've said this before.
There's a lot of work, and so I knew that there was going to be breaks. It's not something that I just go and move. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be like over time. And that's why I feel like even with my apartment, it feels like it's not, in some way, shape, or form. I don't know whether I'm supposed to let go of it because it's almost like, Capricorn likes to plan for the future. You know, it's not hasty. It it has a plan, a vision. And so then my moon tunes in and is like, is it the right time? No, it doesn't feel like the right time. You know what I mean? Or I feel like I'm moving closer to doing something with it, you know? And so it's like it's very interesting. It's very like you have to be in tune. You have to listen. You have to listen to your inner compass.
Yeah.
And then it's like you think about Israel itself. It's all about those two energies, which I find is ironic. You know, it's this nurturing energy, you know, for those who choose to move there, but it's also not so easy. And we know that moving there,
Yeah.
you know, and but there's a higher octave. There's a higher octave that happens when it's you know, there's these different places around the planet, and ironically, Jerusalem, where I was, is one of those chakras on the earth. It's the throat chakra. Ironically, I'm guided to Glastonbury, you know, and it's the heart chakra. These different places have, you know, energies of them of their own. And now we take our own chart and we place it and we're talking to those energies. So
because I want to interweave really quick because I know I don't want to go the hour recording here because
yeah,
there's a lot of information. Again, we're in Gemini season, we can talk a lot.
yeah,
But I also want to point to, too, you're doing really important work with water and these sacred places around the planet. So you're talking about chakra systems, and you and I have been on a road trip together back in 2020, is it 2022, 2021? Mount Shasta. Yep, that's we were there with the spaceships and the full experiences, and that's a whole nother conversation that we can go into. But it was an activation point when we took that road trip together because you were called to collect the sacred waters. And we know Saturn just left Pisces, right? This is the sacred waters, and now you're called to share it. And we're in Pluto and Aquarius, which is all about cymatics and form and frequency and vibration. So, what have you experienced, and what are you guys getting ready to collaborate together in this sacred traveler journey as you're about to, expand and share together this cosmic wisdom, this spiritual knowledge that you both are bringing to the table? So, you want to talk about that, in relation to the traveling and where you're being guided to go?
yeah. So first I want to show you, this is the Sacred Traveler bottle. All right. And Ella has one of these and she's part of that journey. And this is something that's been in the works for years, like you've said. It was 2021 we went.
I think yes.
So I didn't actually get my codes of putting them into bottles until I returned back to Mount Shasta.
Which was when?
That was last May.
Okay.
And that was with Jay. And so
We're both Scorpios, by the way.
and so would you mind, I want to speak out where the different locations have gone. Would you be able to point to them on the map?
No, no, because I don't know what I'm doing here, and I don't want to.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if it showed a thing. Okay. Okay, so essentially we can look at America, right? Up towards where you see like California, Oregon area. That's where Mount Shasta is. That is the root chakra of the earth. Ooh, that's fun. And
I said I can't, and then my inner child's like, "Yes, you can." I'm like, all right, let me try it.
So
using my Aries. Hold on, here we go.
it's okay.
Okay, so this is California area. There's Portland, Oregon. So
Northern California.
So it'd be here, around here.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Okay.
So that's where the root chakra of the earth is. And I've collected waters from there. It's all about deep transformation. It has a gateway that goes even to Hawaii, which is really interesting, and it's connected to the Lemurians. It's quite the most, like we went there. It was quite the interesting place.
All right,
Very high
let's
vibe.
as you're talking about this, I'm looking at what's crossing or intersecting here as you're speaking on it, and I can see there's Neptune
Oh
right
my
next to
gosh.
Saturn, right?
Mhm.
There they are,
Yeah.
they're crossing. So there's Northern California, and what's crossing through it? Sagittarius.
Wow. And
That
what's interesting is Jay and I went last year, probably right on that Sagittarius line, the
Sagittarius.
Pluto,
Yep.
that Pluto cave.
Oh wow, that's ruled by well, Saturn's in Aries right now, but that's ruled by Pluto. So let's see where Pluto is. Pluto's right here,
Oh wow.
right? So it's right in the vicinity. That's interesting. So Pluto, you can see the cross point of Pluto and Sagittarius right here near Seattle. And right
Wow.
through Portland, where you and I traveled to, that was my first legal cannabis purchase, which I thought was
Right.
incredible. So yeah, I mean, oh, this is so interesting, right? As you're talking about this, and so here we are, Mount Shasta codes. Hey, as you're rocking the Mount Shasta shirt on a on a Mars day, it's red. It's a day, right? And
So, yes, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so sorry. So there are 5 different types of waters in this bottle. So we have root chakra, Mount Shasta waters, and then we have Glastonbury that have 2 different waters in it, which is all the way in the UK. And it is the divine masculine waters, which is White Springs, and the divine feminine, which is Chalice Well. And so that is the heart chakra of the earth.
Okay.
And let's see.
Am I
Oh,
going through one?
almost. There we go. Right there. So it looks like it's going through London, but interesting. Okay. Yeah, probably that line right there. What is that? The MC
That's
is
the
going through there.
Midhaven.
Yeah,
And
of course it is.
And then this is Aries and Saturn. Aries right here.
Right. So
So
that's
there's London right there crossing London, the Midhaven in London.
so we have our heart chakra, we have our root chakra, but not only do we have our heart chakra here, but it is the current third eye as well. It was in Nepal, but that actually shifted as collective consciousness has shifted. And so it's right at Glastonbury now.
Wow.
And then we have one of the locations of the throat chakra, which is Jerusalem.
See if we can.
Oh no, go up. To the right, to the right. There we go. Right there. So Jerusalem is right on the Vesta line.
Okay.
Well, it's close to it.
Right here. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's another area. So the other location of the throat chakra is Egypt, which I can't wait. That is definitely an area that I cannot wait to go to. And then also, though it's not a chakra, but it's a point that moves through all chakras and gates, which is Serpent Mound, which is back in the United States in Ohio.
Ah, we were just there together, us three.
we were.
The equinox.
And and as I collected these waters not knowing what I was going to be doing specifically, but the inner knowing was this is important, that water has consciousness and it is going to shift our world truly. And
Yes.
so by taking these waters and merging together, we have the sacred traveler bottle. And the intention with this bottle is when you use this water is to be able to tune into what your next step is. That you are supported by the universe that you can take that next step. You are capable. You are fully capable. And when we, like, Ella, you work with water, when we speak to water kindly,
Mhm.
it not only is, you have, 5 different waters connected together here. It has its own consciousness in these different areas, and they're being merged together.
Yes.
That's wild. Not only do we have that going on, but we also have our consciousness connecting with the water consciousness. And the way we use that is sacred. And so, like, being able to speak to the water in a pure and holy way, in a loving way, is really important in how we use the waters. Do we grid with them? Do we put them on the earth? Imagine putting these in different, waters around the world. I will tell you, I have seen things shift. Last year, I used this in an area where it was a lot of not great things have happened on the planet, where wars have been, where very, negative things. And I use this, and right after that, things started to shift. I mean, I saw it, and it was correlated. And this is another thing, correlated with a specific time of the year, the summer solstice. So it's not what we use. It's not just what we use. It's how we use it, where we use it, when we use it, all of these factors and how we use it, like all these factors are really important. And one of my missions with this water is to be able to have a trust with it. So, when I go and I do all of these when we go and do these travelings, really, we're sending a beautiful message out there. But like, as these bottles are sold and people are connecting with this consciousness, it can flow back into me doing more research and work and connecting with different organizations to be able to get clean, whole, sacred waters in every city on this planet. That's important, because what we consume, like you said, I think you said it in this podcast, I don't know, or it was earlier today, we're like 67% at least of water. 67 to 70%,
Some say 70 or 80. It depends who you talk to.
Exactly. And as that number goes up, it proves the point even more. We are these divine beings, and we need to be able to connect with that sacred energy and put into our body, these codes. And as we do that, it's going to elevate this planet. I see it, I feel it, I know it. And the work that we're doing, like, as we start, setting our sacred space for Glastonbury, the heart chakra and third eye of the world, we're creating a sacred temple there. One that all religions, all faiths, all beings of every kind can go feel comfortable and live and be who they are in a sacred space. And that's what we're working towards.
I love that. I love that mission. And I love that you guys, for anybody that's connected to this channel here, and if you can resonate with any of the content, especially if you consider yourself a star seed or a sacred gritter or any of the lingo that we use in the spiritual community, because we're being called, a lot of us are called to do these things. And we don't know why. We don't have, a conscious awareness unless you use something like astrology or another sacred divination tool, whatever that means for you, right? You're just to get you access to your own inner gnosis, because again, we are here on purpose. We may have forgotten our purpose through amnesia and through actually coming into this frequency, right? We go through the electromagnetic field, which kind of can wipe our program, if you will. That's why we have to start over. But we may get to the point where we don't have to keep starting over again, right? That we can come in. I'm thinking of also of divine creator Mateus de Stefano, who came in with memories of many, many lifetimes, right? So
Mhm.
we're starting to get reactivated and remember who we are, why we're here. And it may not make sense to our family members or brothers and sisters when we're like, yo, I got to go grid Jerusalem. And they're like, what? It's okay.
What?
They don't have to know, right? And this is what the station and astrology is giving you permission. You have a soul mission, a higher purpose, and it may not be even understandable to you, but this is also the age of knowing and trusting,
Mhm.
right? The age of Aquarius and just trusting like you know, like you know, like you know, and to follow that. Be your unique, individuated self source, because that's what's going to help elevate this whole planet is by being authentically you, right? They just did studies with Zach Bush, just put this little, I saw this little reel that says, the highest vibration frequency really is authenticity. They did some, some studies about that and just about gauging, and they put people in a Faraday cage and gave them images and, images of gratitude, which of course put them in a high vibration. But they were also showing them images of trauma and things, and they would notice these same sort of frequencies would come through, and they're like, "What is this? How can we gauge, where these frequencies are?" And it was what they were gauging was the moment that each person was sharing a moment of honesty about themselves, and what they were really experiencing. That's when that spike of energy revealed itself, that people were being their authentic selves, whatever experience they were having, whether they were having a positive experience or a negative experience, or I rather call it an agreeable experience or a disagreeable experience, because positive and negative, the language can be inverted. So anyway, just kind of wrapping this conversation up and just leaving with the viewers and anybody that is called to watch this, that you are not alone. If you're being called to do some sacred grid work, to work with the sacred waters, again, waters is Neptune, this is Aries, go out and pioneer. Aries is about, starting cardinal, becoming, being it, having the courage to go out and to be your unique self. We need this right now on the planet. You're not alone, you're not crazy, you're part of this cosmic starseed system, right? And so, we're starting to transcend judgment and starting to upgrade the language about how we're speaking our experience. And that's what astrology really is an opportunity to do with other like-minded, and again, speaking the language, right? Because you get deeper understanding. So, anyway, I'm going to put out in the below in the comments in the descriptor ways to find these beautiful beings as they are continuing on their sacred traveler journey to explore, to expand, to help people, to help unite not only the nations and different religions and different cultures, but also bringing their healing practices and their own, unique perspectives to whatever community they're in right now. And so, and in the future. So we're looking forward to your travels to Glastonbury, both of you. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this cosmic connection conversation. And do you both feel complete? Is there anything each of you want to leave the audience with as far as this cosmic conversation community connection? Is there anything you want to leave people with during this time?
I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you, Ella, for having us. It is always magical whenever we are together.
Thank you.
And I guess I just, just work towards your next step. Your gut, your heart knows what it is. Open your heart to what lays before you and just take that next step because it will just continue to grow and build,
Even if it's a baby step.
even if it's a baby step.
Aries, we're babies in a lot of
Yes.
ways. So we're learning to even walk. We're learning to take the steps, much less, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Be you. Be you, and you know, play a sacred game of hiding things on your with yourself, like a little game. Sometimes I decide to put a stone over here, or like whatever it is, those signs and symbols that you leave for yourself, whether it be a piece of writing or whatever it is, you're having a sacred conversation with your soul. And when you have those moments where you need to do those things, listen, because you never know what it will turn into and why you did it. You don't need to know the why. Just follow your soul and be you.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your energy, guys. And again, thank you so much for joining the channel here at Lives in Astrology. And again, this is where we are grounded in the stars, elevated by consciousness. Thank you, Soul Family. Thank you, Soul Tribe, for being here. Looking forward to our next cosmic conversation. And again,
Thank you.
Lives in Astrology for this 30-day cosmic conversation as we continue. Tomorrow, day 8, we're going to explore whatever astrology wants to come through. So thank you so much for being here. We love you.